Well, how's it going there, guys? Anxious Cynic back again with another wallpaper competition that we held on the Citizen Discord server. So this theme was for explosions, and let's take a look at our submissions. So the first one we got here is by Shadowhunt, and the explosion effects here, I think, are pretty good. TNT's in the scene, you got the explosion in the scene, the camera effects are pretty good. Obviously, the glaring issue here is the dang old flatlands. If it was not for the flatlands, if there was maybe a bit more of a fireball behind them, some kind of background scene, not even using scenery, you could use like a 2D plane to put some kind of cityscape behind them, something, doesn't matter. That would have elevated this tremendously. The effects and everything else are coming off pretty good. I'm pretty happy with the aesthetics of this, but unfortunately, it's canceled by the lack of scenery or something to that effect. Next mission we got is by the fabled blue Hedgehog gamer. This was pretty good. I mean, when you're talking about explosions, this definitely screams explosion to you. You see here he's got like the kind of cityscape, you got an interesting art style with the buildings and whatnot. The color scheme is pretty good. You got beams of light presumably flying through all these things. You got particles, essentially the big blocks up there flying around. Everyone's reacting to it. Looks like this poor guy down there in the middle is ripped, as in RIP ripped. But yeah, this one all came together pretty well. The only thing I would say here that would really help this image is some depth in terms of the foreground. For instance, somewhere in this area here, I think would benefit by having maybe a car that's kind of really close to the camera and kind of blurred from depth of field, something like that gives the scene a bit more depth, because as it is, the scene kind of just looks like something we're looking at. And we are just looking at it. But if you had something in there that kind of included us in the scene, it would add a sense of depth, of impact, maybe a bit of danger to this huge explosion happening. But overall, still, really like the way you did this one. This mission is by Frank, and there's not a whole lot to comment on here. I do think the portrayal of the explosion looks pretty good. This has a much more organic, non-Minecrafty look to it. I'm assuming, you know, compositing images into the scene rather than just trying to use particles in Minimator or whatever. The only thing with this one, though, is it's pretty dark. Not that that's really an issue, but there's nothing to context anything. It's literally just an explosion with some trees. I don't know what this is in the bottom right corner. Maybe someone's head or something. I don't really know, but I do like the overall look of it, but I think it focuses a bit too much, puts too much emphasis on the explosion theme in terms of that's all there is in the scene. There's nothing to context the explosion to elevate it into something that would be a more engrossing image of a wallpaper. So good effect on the explosion itself, but there's really nothing else to speak of about this wallpaper here. Next submission we got is by NutCBD. Don't know what that name is about, but that's what it is. And this was a kind of interesting take on it. This is a little bit different, as you might have guessed from previous submissions. This is some kind of weird laser beam looking explosion thing. Got his character there doing a thing. This almost looks like something someone would make as their YouTube channel background or something. Anyway, it's an interesting take, but I'm not quite sure it screams explosion to me. I can see maybe what you were going for here, but to me, it's much more laser beamish, and the fact that he's holding TNT would suggest a bit more of an organic, like normal explosion idea. So if he was holding a bit more of like a futuristic mine or a C4 kind of device, I think it would have played a little bit better. So like the only thing that really indicates that this was supposed to mean explosion is the fact that he's holding TNT. Interesting concept, interesting look. You still got the flatlands thing here, but this is a bit stylized, so it's kind of hard to knock it for that, but it still stands that it's flatland. You can still see the clouds in the sky up, so we're getting an indication this is outside somewhere in some kind of known universe. And so lack of scenery is definitely making this appear more different. I don't know. You should get rid of the stars in the sky and everything and just have it be a blank background, I would say. Basically just a stylized look of an image. We're focused on the character here, so yeah, it's kind of an incongruous blend of themes and styles. That's all I'm trying to say, I think. And the final submission here is by our long lost friend Herolyn, and this one's pretty cool. It's dang old Star Wars theme. It's an X-Wing blowing up the Death Star. And as far as creating a scene and depicting the explosion and involving us in this one definitely has the depth that I was talking about with Blue Hedgehog Gamer's submission, because we've got the nose of the X-Wing up here towards the bottom right corner, giving us that sense of like it's flying at us. The X-Wing pilot and main cockpit area seems to be our focus, and you've got kind of the defocused Death Star back there exploding, and it looks cool, man. It's got good lighting, good effects, you got tons of particles and stuff everywhere. The only thing I would say that stands out to me as a negative on this one is the smoke particle effects, and that's only because they're really big. Like the explosion is big, but the particles seem to be, I don't know, they don't seem like they're fitting into the background. They just seem oversized. I would think that maybe you need smaller smoke particles in the background, but like a lot more of them to simulate like a heavy smoke cloud coming from the explosion. Now with Minimator and the type of scene you're doing here, I would imagine that would be kind of difficult to achieve, so you would actually want to use some non-Minecrafty smoke effects or something. Hard to say, but that's the only thing that really stuck out to me with this one. Either way, great work. And with that said, I'm gonna bring it down to this one and Blue Hedgehog Gamer's submission, and if I had to choose, it's a tough choice. It's a tough one. Who did the best? Who's gonna get the coveted wallpaper contest winner rank on the Discord server? It's a close one. This is almost 50-50, but I think I'm gonna hand it to Blue Hedgehog Gamer. And that's because this encompasses the idea of explosion to me the best. It's an enormous explosion. It's a very key and prominent aspect of this wallpaper, but it includes a lot of other elements into the scene. We have characters in the scene reacting and whatnot. I think it was all done pretty well. If it just had that little bit of depth, like I said, with something more in the foreground closer to the camera, that would have really set it off. But I really think that when it comes to just the basic theme of explosions, Blue Hedgehog Gamer knocked this one out of the park. No diss to Herolyn. This was great work here, and I really like the theme and everything you did here, but there's a lot more going on with this. It doesn't quite just say explosion. You know, there's, you know, the Star Wars theme and everything else going on. So for its purity and for its execution and style, I think Blue Hedgehog deserves it this time. So there we go. And keep a lookout for the next animation competition we're going to be doing here shortly, hopefully. So that's it. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks for looking at these images here. Thanks for everyone who submitted all the great work and stuff. And I will see you guys in the next video.